Reactions are pouring in after Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul, was attacked. NTD's Iris Tao has more on the latest developments.
More details are emerging after House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, was attacked at the couple's San Francisco home early Friday morning. The Associated Press reports that Paul Pelosi was struck several times in the head and suffered blunt force injuries. But Nancy Pelosi's office says he is expected to make a full recovery. And more on the attack itself. Multiple outlets are now reporting that the intruder shouted, "Where is Nancy?" before attacking the lawmaker's husband. The House Speaker was here in D.C., not at home in San Francisco at the time. The local police department gave us more details on Friday afternoon.
At approximately 2:27 this morning, San Francisco police officers were dispatched to the residence of Speaker Nancy Pelosi regarding an A-priority well-being check. Our officers observed Ms. Pelosi and the suspect both holding a hammer. The suspect pulled the hammer away from Ms. Pelosi and violently assaulted him with it.
The police identified the suspect as 43-year-old David DePape of California, adding that he'll face charges of attempted homicide and assault with a deadly weapon, among others. But the reason for the attack is still unclear.
The motive for this attack is still being determined.
And reactions are pouring in from both sides of the aisle. The White House says President Biden has spoken to Nancy Pelosi this morning, and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer called the attack a dastardly act. Meanwhile, Republican Senator Ted Cruz tweeted, quote, "We can have our political differences, but violence is always wrong." And Steve Scalise, the House Republican whip who was himself shot in 2017 at a congressional baseball practice, has also joined in condemning the attack, saying violence has no place in this country. And now Capitol Police are considering stepping up protection of lawmakers following the latest attack. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Iris Tao, NTD News.
The Senate released a new report Thursday on the origins of the CCP virus. It says there's considerable evidence pointing to the Wuhan Institute of Virology in China. The report says substantial evidence suggests that the COVID-19 pandemic was the result of a research-related incident associated with a laboratory in Wuhan, China. The report goes on to say that this explanation is consistent with how the virus spread during the pandemic's early stages. It says a natural origin does remain possible, but that the original animal host has not yet been identified. Senate committee staff produced the report under the direction of Republican Senator Richard Burr. They spent 15 months poring over hundreds of scientific studies and interviewed dozens of experts. Former President Donald Trump is reacting to Elon Musk's deal with Twitter. He praises Musk's purchase of the social media platform. Trump posted on Truth Social, quote, "I'm very happy that Twitter is now in sane hands." He adds Twitter must now work hard to rid itself of all of the bots and fake accounts that have hurt it so badly. It will be much smaller, but better. But Trump did not say if he would join Twitter again if Musk lifts the ban on his account. The social media platform banned Trump's account in January of 2021 over his comments on the January 6th Capitol breach. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer is commenting on several toss-up races for the U.S. Senate. He got caught on a hot mic Thursday while speaking to President Biden.
It's hard to believe that they will vote for Schumer.
Schumer was commenting on the race between Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock and his Republican challenger Herschel Walker. Schumer said,
"That seat, we're in danger of that seat."
According to Georgia's Secretary of State, voters there have been breaking turnout records into week 2 of early voting. Schumer also commented on the debate in Pennsylvania between Democrat John Fetterman and Republican Mehmet Oz. Schumer then said his party appears to be picking up steam in Nevada.
Looks like the debate didn't hurt us too much in Pennsylvania as of today, so that's good.
The 3 races are all expected to be highly contested in the midterms, and they could decide the control of the Senate. And with the 2022 midterms just about 2 weeks away, joining us, we're happy to have senior pollster at the Trafalgar Group, Robert Cahaley. Robert, thank you so much for joining us on the Capitol Report.
Happy to be here, sir.
Robert, there are a lot of fascinating races throughout the country. Specifically, what are you seeing in Pennsylvania with regard to Dr. Oz and John Fetterman coming off of their debate?
Well, the first poll out in Pennsylvania was Matt Towery and Insider Advantage. And for those of you who know, probably see Matt and I together a lot on a lot of different shows. He is, if we don't do it and Matt does, I have confidence in it. So if he says Oz has got a 3-point lead, I believe it. We're going to be in there next, and that doesn't surprise me at all. I think based on the performance that was just had, it's completely possible. And this was such an overwhelming. I mean, everybody went in that debate having to prove something different. Fetterman had to kind of just show that he could process information and produce intelligent answers, which he did not do. But Oz had to show that Oz had to win people over as far as his personality, and he could have been really kind of a jerk, but he was very restrained in how he would deal with things. He didn't seem to be mean and didn't come across mean-spirited. And in a situation like that, that would have been easy to do. And I think that was the bridge he had to climb, and he climbed it well.
Robert, you in 2016 at the Trafalgar Group famously defied conventional polling and had Trump winning the general election. Could you give us a glimpse into your methodology?
Yeah, we're a lot different than a lot of the different other groups. One, we don't believe in these long questionnaires. We think they are absolutely arcane and that don't make any sense. I mean, this day and age, people are busy. And the number one question we get when the phone rings is, how long is this going to take? And if your answer is, oh, just 20 minutes, it's just 50 questions, you're not going to get anything reliable. And the worst than that is these groups that use online panels. I mean, I hate to say this, but how weird do you have to be to say, oh, I'd like to be on a bunch of online panels? Most of those people are paid some kind of a goofy gift or something. It doesn't make sense. We talk to just regular voters, short questionnaires. We do big samples, over 1,000 in every state, and we just try to handle it differently. We also give people lots of methods to participate, whether it's email, text, on the phone. They can do it online. Just make it convenient for people to participate, and we find that helps us, especially with these other methods, helps us do a better job of getting minorities and younger people.
Now, do you get a sense of what has the biggest impact in causing noticeable shifts in the polls? Is there a specific issue that voters are responding to most?
Well, I would first say there's not been a huge shift in the polls. I don't buy into any of this nonsense that 18% of suburban women have moved. These shifts aren't even real. That doesn't happen. What's happened is they sold a bill of goods, the mainstream media did, after the Dobbs decision, that all these suburban women were just focused on abortion and nothing else. And what we found is, yes, there were people, especially women who cared about abortion. But in comparison to a question like, do I feel safe going to the grocery store after dark? In comparison to the question, am I worried about my children or grandchildren being exposed to fentanyl that comes across the border? Abortion finishes a distant third when you give them those three questions. And so we knew all along that these were not single issue voters. And the interesting thing is the small amount of people who were voting in abortion only, it was their first choice, but nobody had abortion as their second choice. So it was either what you were all about or it wasn't in your top 5.
Robert, before we let you go, I have to ask, any predictions on who wins the House or Senate, Democrats or Republican?
Yeah, I hate to predict 10, 12 days out, but here's what I'll say. If the election were next Tuesday, I'd say the Republicans win the House with 25 to 30 seats, and I would say the Republicans win the Senate by at least 50, 52. One maybe a runoff in Georgia to get number 52. Anything can happen in 10, 15 days. I think it's 12 days now. But I would say that's what happens if it's next Tuesday, and I think it's going to get better than that. Anything can happen in 10, 15 days. I think it's 12 days now. But I would say that's what happens if it's next Tuesday, and I think it's going to get better than that.
Fascinating stuff. Robert Cahaly, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
As illegal border crossings hit record highs, we get an inside look at everyday life on the border. Rancher John Ladd explains his day-to-day challenges and what the federal government could do to help. But he warns the consequences of an unsecure border runs deep. NTD's Melina Wisecup has the story.
Hearing this is common for John Ladd on a daily basis as Border Patrol hovers over his ranch, spotting illegal crossers in midday. They caught one, but the search continues for the group that came with him.
The agents, 2/3 of them are detailed to other areas, so we don't have enough agents to respond. We have the camera system, the technology Border Patrol's got, so they probably know 85% of what's coming in the country, but they don't have anybody to go catch them. That's what's evolved with Biden.
There are also costs from people constantly crossing a ranch where cattle are raised. Ladd tells us he spent roughly $100,000 per year for the past 30 years on maintenance and cattle losing weight from being chased around. Camouflage clothes stripped off by unknown people who've illegally crossed over the border and made their way into the interior of the U.S. Remnants like these are common findings for Ladd. His family has owned this land right on the border for 127 years.
And this is what they have to buy to get smuggled across the border. And then when they get here, they just dump it.
And this garage here, built in the 1930s, he's now having to tear down because of continuously finding illegal crossers spending the night. He shows us another storage space where illegal immigrants come to hide out. The former Border Patrol agent who lives in the house next door has responded to medical emergencies.
Let's get him out to the freaking road. Señor, vamos a parar. Párense bien. We got cold water in the car. Mira para acá, todo bien.
Heat strokes like this are most common, happening a few times a month. And dead bodies are found now and again. Ladd says he knows of at least 16 people who have died on their ranch trying to make the trek. By the same token, illegal immigration is seen by some as a humanitarian gesture.
The humanitarian deal is just a ploy to socialize America, dumb down America, or make America a third world country, or putting them all over the interior of the U.S. New York's going to let non-citizens vote in local elections. Right. And, well, what do you think? Pretty soon it'll be the federal election.
Ladd tells us this is the factor that grips his heart the most, watching the fabric of America change.
Wait, one world order, one world economy? Is that what the bottom line is? That's been going on for a long time, but it's certainly scary. I'm more scared of that than illegals, and I'm darn sure more scared of rattlesnakes than illegals too. But
he tells us he's concerned that administrations past and present haven't put forth a genuine effort at stemming the tide of illegal immigration.
That Trump's wall was 20 million a mile, and I, like I said, I'm in favor of that, but it isn't beneficial unless you put boots on the ground, and so far that hadn't happened. So. But there's been a lot of money spent on it, and not very good results.
Hundreds of millions have been spent on border security on their ranch alone. And now technology like these security cameras aren't even being used. Reporting in Bisbee, Arizona, Melina Wisecup, NTD News.